get zero at the table, man, all kinds of shit breaks loose.
Pick me!
Zero's at the table, you gotta be careful. Tons of shit breaks loose, baby.
Greetings, humans, and welcome back. I'm Joey Pigtails, and this is episode number 30 of my poker vlog. Jinkies, Batman, it's cold outside. This is Florida, for Kier's sake. This episode was recorded Wednesday, January 1st, during Orange City's big-ass high hand promotion, where $5,000 is up for grabs every 4 hours, in addition to normal high hands. The room was extremely busy. Real quick, humans, I just crossed 800 subs, but the sweet spot I'm aiming for is 1,000 or more, as a whole bunch of doors opened up for me at that point. If you enjoy what I do and want to see more, then hit those like and subscribe buttons and send my channel link to everyone you know, and tell your grandma about it too. I've got some interesting hands for you, some of which I want your feedback on, as well as some PLO double board bomb pots where I drop some wisdom on you all focused on flop bet sizing, with additional discussion after the hands, so stay tuned for some wisdom drops. Here we go. In the first hand, I open decent looking kings to $15 as the RFI, and 3 other players come along. On a 10 high 2 spade board, I have an overpair and the dry ace. I take the passive line and check, and see a bet of $25. The other 2 players fold, and I make the call as I sometimes do with a naked nut flush draw. I turn a bunch of equity with the queen of clubs, but the hand isn't made yet, so I check call a bet of $50. On the jack of spades river, I elect a lead for $100. My opponent ends up folding, but I want to know your thoughts. Was I ahead, and could I get called by worse? Was I making this bet as a bluff? I may revisit this in the next vlog if the discussion is lively, so share your thoughts with me. What do you think? I open this nice combo to $20, and sadly I only see one call from my friend Jerry. Maybe that $15 open size is better for a time. On a flop of Queen 10-10, I begin to wonder what could have been if I did open to $15. Jerry checks, and I check too. Turns to 7, Jerry bets $5. Value, baby. We're never getting more value if we raise, so I call to see the river of the 5 of hearts. Jerry checks, and I fire out a huge value bet of $10. Jerry makes the call, announcing boat, and I roll my quads over, which qualifies for the high hand, but it was immediately beat by a straight flush. Oh well.
High hand 35.
Bomb pot time! I look down at a pretty good starting hand, and we're off to flops of King, Queen, Jack, 2 diamonds, and Jack, Jack, 5, 2 spades. Jerry leads for $40, and while I technically only have equity on one board, notice there are 3 jacks out there. It's hard to have one of those, and if one of these guys does have it, I still have a little equity on that board if they don't have a boat already. I also have drawing equity on top. I call, and we get one more call too. Turns are both blanks, and now Jerry jams for 105, and I go ahead and make a reluctant call. The other player in the hand is usually overly aggressive with lots of equity, so I don't expect him to raise here, which is why I stuck around. That player ends up folding, and I see that Jerry has a king high straight on top, but nothing on bottom, and the top board pairs, letting me scoop this. The next hand we see a min-raise to $10 and a call, so I call with single suited jacks on the button, and both blinds come along as well. On an ace-king-9 all-spade flop, I bink number 2 here. Jerry bets $10, I make the call, and the big blind comes along too. On the blank turn card, I bet $20 when checked to. Jerry comes along rather quickly. On the 5 of diamonds river, I bet $50 for value. Jerry straddles the button for 5, and I limp this ace-high suited hand. Someone makes it 15, and 3 of us come along to see a flop of ace, queen, 6, 2 hearts, and it's checked around. The turn is another ace, but my hand isn't that strong here. There's a bet of $20, Jerry calls, and I go hit the call to evaluate. With a jack on the river, I check to see Jerry pot it, and I have to let this one go. Trip aces with no kicker is behind just about everything here. I open this nice king-king combo to $20, which sees 2 calls before seat 7 pots it verbally to 105. Yikes. That doesn't mean this is a fold though. Yes, the 5 sucks, and yes, I only have 1 suit, but all of the remaining players in the hand have $500 or more in their stacks, and this is a hand that can flop really hard or be an easy fold a lot of the time. So I call, and the other 2 players call too. On a Jack 9-6 rainbow flop, I don't get what I'm looking for. I check, Harry fires pot, and we all fold. Another bomb pot? And queens again? Cool. Oh, and look at that. I flopped a boat on bottom? Let's talk about bomb pot strategy here, because we had a little discussion at the table after this hand. I want you all to approach these situations with value in mind. When you flop a monster, get value from it. With 120 in, I bet $50 when checked to an early position. Why 50? Unless someone has quad 8s here, I have a nutted hand that statistically won't change very often going to the river. With that being said, I don't want anyone to fold. You'll notice both boards are paired, so every hand that will continue either has a boat right now or is drawing to one. And since I have top boat on bottom, I want them to draw. It's folded to seat 7 who now pots it. Ugh. Everyone folds, and I call, and as expected, we chop this up. Now, the point of this discussion is to highlight the fact that raising on the flop here is a mistake. We fail to get multi-way value and end up making about $35 total on the hand. So remember, in double board bomb pots, think about getting multi-way value with nutted hands and betting in a manner that practically begs the other players to stick their money in. There's one limp, and then seat 1 raises to $25. I call, as does 4 other players. Now, you're asking why I didn't raise this hand, aren't you? This is something that I go over in detail during coaching sessions, but it is important to include some ace-ace combos in our flatting range. If you'd like to know which ones and why, hit me up about coaching on the side. On a flop of 5-6 jack rainbow, I flop some equity, but the bottom side of the straight draw isn't the best. Bill now jams for $65, the initial raiser folds, and I make the call, as does Harry. With the king of spades in the turn, I pick up a bunch of equity here and decide to pot it for most of what I have left. Harry folds, and we're off to the river of the 2 of hearts, which I needed, as Bill had a set of 5s. Look at that. I love these double-suited rundown hands, especially the Jack-10 variety. I call the min-click in front of me, and Harry pots it to $50 with 4 of us coming along. I do 3-bet this hand occasionally, but I don't this time. Now, there are a few flops we would love to see with this hand, and oh baby, that's one of them. With the nut straight, 2-pair, and a gut shot straight flush draw, to say I have everything is an understatement. There's $250 in the pot, and I have a little over $700 in my stack. I want to try and get this in on the turn or the river, and charge any potential draws to stick around. Harry was having a conversation, but quickly fell quiet when I made this bet of $200, taking a few seconds to make the call before everyone else folds. The turn is the king of hearts, not changing the nuts, but that is a card that could add equity to hands that call the flop, things like queen jack XX with bigger spades and such, or hands like ace ace king 10 with spades. I jam my last 530 hoping for a full double up. Anything that calls is far behind equity-wise, but a call would mean he isn't drawing dead, and you've all watched enough of my vlog to know that those small equity hands still hit sometimes. Harry ends up folding, and I pick up this massive pot. One more bomb pot. On flops of king 10 7 2 diamonds and ace queen 9 rainbow, I have top on both boards, but this isn't that strong. It's checked around though, and we see turns giving me trip kings on top and picking up a gut shot on bottom. There's a bet of $120, and I decide to call here. It's honestly kind of marginal, and probably bad juju since my rack is on the table and I'm about to leave, but fuck it, let's tempt fate. I call, and everyone else folds. Smaller bets, people. The river brings a 3 on top and a 5 on bottom, and we check it down. My opponent hit kings full of 3s on top, but my river 2-pair on bottom are good there to chop this one up and take half the pot. It felt good to book another win after taking a few weeks off to spend with my son and nephews at my dad's house over the holidays. It's crazy how time seems to go by faster the older we get. Let's talk about those bomb pots real quick. Specifically, I want to reiterate the concepts of pushing and pulling, which come into play with double board bomb pots and other high-low variants including PL08 and Big O. Pulling is the concept of placing a small bet to keep more than one player in and get multi-way value. Pushing is making a large bet that is intended to force people to fold. Big bets on the flop and double board bomb pots are not inviting. They aren't friendly. A big bet says, I want you to fold. Now, pulling is the main thing you saw with the bomb pots in this video, including calling other players' bets instead of raising on the flop. The vast majority of the time, the bets we place on the flop, if any, are going to be pulls. There are situations where we will push on the flop as well, but that's a conversation for another time. So when is pulling ideal? There are a plethora of considerations and situations here, but the main concept is to pull when we are nutted on at least one board with little chance of being outdrawn, or when our equity on both boards is massive. Our goal is to invite as many players as possible to the party we are throwing, and we want the cover charge to get in the door to see the turn card to be minimal. The focus is keeping it cheap, but significant, keeping in mind the goal of maintaining a cheap price on the turn and a value bet on the river, all of which continue to be called by multiple players. Understanding that in most bomb pot situations, when we successfully pull 4 or more players on the flop to the turn, we're usually going to end up in a spot where SPRs are easy to get to 1 or less on the river, given that a lot of games play 100 or 200 big blinds deep. If the games are deeper, the time to make a larger than normal pull bet is on the turn, not the flop in most situations. So what does that sizing look like exactly? Our flop sizing should be somewhere between 1/4 to 1/2 pot size. So in the 1-2 PLO 500 cap game I play in Orange City, where the bomb pots are $15 a player, means the pot is $120 if all 8 players are sitting. When I look to pull, my sizing is usually about $50, but is adjustable based upon game dynamics. If stacks are shallower, I may bet as small as $25, which will usually induce numerous calls, as well as get some smaller stacks to ship it and open the action or create a weird double pull spot. Observant players may notice a short-stacked player who looks like they want to jam. If we're acting before them, we can bet less than half of what they have, allow them to raise, and open action for us, where we can then find another minimal raise, or maybe all-in, where everyone is committed and won't fold. The main concept I want you to take away from this conversation is that getting value from your nutted hands as double board bomb pots is the priority, and that blowing people out of the pot with large flop bets when nutted is killing your win rate. And you're killing my win rate too. So stop that, okay? Thanks for stopping by, humans. I'm Joey Pigtails, and I am transparent, reminding you to set the example and be a good human. Bye.